What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Emphasis on Sports. I'm your host, Damon Anthony. As usual, what we talk about is sports, nothing else. I don't care about what people do outside of the lines, man. It's about sports. That's what we are right now. All right, so speaking of sports, a lot of great things been going on. If no one is paying attention to college football, you should be. I know tonight the updated rankings are going to come out. There's going to be a lot of talk about that. But this 12-team playoff is playing out exactly how I thought it would. There's going to be multiple teams that have more than one loss. That's a fact. But there's so much parity going on in college football that whoever comes in 13th, whoever comes in 14th is going to have a lot to talk about, is going to have a lot to cry about. Do better is what I have to say. There's going to be some teams on the outside looking in that feel like they should be in. Some of those teams are going to be SEC teams. One of the things that I will say is, man, listen, SEC has always been a top-heavy conference. Always, at least for the last 20 years, I've heard about how great that conference is. Take out Alabama. Take out Georgia. Then what do you got? An average-ass conference is what you got. The Big Ten, especially with the additions in the Big Ten, Big Ten's actually look like a really solid conference, especially, those teams that are coming into the Big Ten. It changes the game, changes the latitude of it. One of the bigger games from this past weekend, Michigan, knocking off Ohio State. Now, me living in Northeast Ohio, I've heard so much about how much it's hurt the feelings of the Ohio State fans. And this is the worst loss that they've had, and blah, 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 blah. I get it. I totally get it. Beating Michigan is bigger in a lot of people's eyes than getting a national championship. But 4 straight years, Michigan has knocked you off. I'm not going to say it's on Ryan Day. I'm not going to say it's on administration. I'm not going to say it's any of that. Michigan has been run properly, has been run well. And just like the game is as important to Ohio State as it is, it's equally as important to Michigan. So seeing Michigan do what they did, win this game, was huge just from a sports fan's perspective. But then watching the reaction, not only of the fans, but of the team. Listen, Ohio State fans, Columbus, Ohio State fans, if you don't want Michigan to plant a flag in the middle of your field, beat them. It's not a hard concept. It's not a hard concept. I say this, you see what's behind me. I'm a 49er fan, been that since I was in the first grade. And I remember when T.O. stood in the middle of the star in Dallas and did this and got rocked. But you know what? If you don't want T.O. to stand there, stop him from getting in the end zone. If you don't want Michigan to plant a flag on your field, beat them. If you don't beat them, kindly shut up. That's how I feel about it. There was a lot of intense action and post-game fighting and post-game issues in college football. As a fan, I love the passion. I love to see it. I love competition. But to those teams that feel like they got disrespected, if you don't want to get disrespected, guess what you need to do? Beat the team. If you don't beat the team, they do whatever they want. Because if you beat them, they hang their head, they go in the locker room. So sorry for you. So me seeing stuff like that, I love as a fan. I love in the spirit of competition. But if you want better, do better. All right. So let's keep watching what college football is going to bring, because we only have this championship weekend left, and then everything gets laid out on the table to be done. So some of you teams that are staring at this playoff and hoping that you get in, I hope you win this weekend, because if you don't want to hear about it. And I'm going to talk bad about you. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk bad about you. If you're sitting crying and wiping tears, this is when those games at the beginning of the season count. Well, college football, I'm loving what I'm seeing. And I can't wait until this weekend's over just to check it out, just to see what happens. And definitely when I do the Week 14 NFL preview, I'm going to preview these college football games and what they mean to the sport. So make sure to tap in. All right. NBA action. NBA action has been superb. I mean, I know right now we're in the middle of the stupid in-season tournament, but there's been a lot of big action. The biggest news in the NBA has been kind of the drop in numbers from one LeBron James. A lot of people have had a lot of things to say there. LeBron's falling off. We're finally seeing the age get to him. All of that may be true. And I will also stand here and say I've never in my life been a singular LeBron James fan. I've always had the respect for him. Dude's been phenomenal. I've seen his whole career play out. But at some point, all good things must come to an end. I'm not saying that this is the point. What I'm saying is it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, I mean, obviously, just like the rest of the world, I'll be paying attention to LeBron. Let's hope that he picks it up. But if not, bro, this is what, his 22nd year in the league, 21st year in the league, I don't know, 20-something. But, like, at some point, you got to dip a little bit. We've seen he's a generational talent. I'm going to say in the top 10 of players all time. And I'll explain that later. Anybody that wants to say LeBron's the best player, or even the second best player, you're not basketball fans, you're number watchers. And let me know if I need to explain that. I will watch a lot of basketball with my eyes. Would I take LeBron to start my team? No. Not if I could take a Jordan, not if I could take a Kobe, not if I could take a Magic, a Bird. Not even if I could take Kevin Durant. I'll take all of them before I'll take LeBron to build my team around. Some of y'all will just look at numbers. You know that old adage, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. Numbers don't always tell the truth either. So one of these days upcoming, we'll talk about that truth. And some of y'all may get it, some of you will not. In the meantime, week 13, NFL is over. Let's recap it. Let's wrap it up because we're about to get ready for week 4. In our last episode, I actually did week 12 recap and the week 13 preview and picks. Same episode. I was kind of crunched for time. We're back to regular schedule. Let's wrap up week 13. Week 13 started with Thanksgiving. Detroit broke their 7-year skid on Thanksgiving and knocked off Chicago 23-21. Now, I've long said that Detroit is the best team in the league. What they do is they find the W. No matter what, we're going to win. If you're super inferior, we're going to beat the shit out of you. If not, we're going to figure out just how to win the game. The Bears, they didn't look terrible in the game, but whatever the hell Matt Eberflus was smoking at the end of the game, bruh, past that. Because to end the game the way that they did, you got a touchdown, you got a timeout in your pocket. And when I was watching the game, there's very few times that I watch anybody playing. I'm screaming at the TV, what are you doing? What's happening? That's what was going on in this game. Terrible ending by Chicago cost the man his job. Detroit continues to slug on. They're the number 1 seed in the NFC. I believe that they're the best team in football. But as we go through these scores, there's a team that's on their heels. There's definitely a team that's on their heels. But the Lions are looking solid. Next game on Thanksgiving, Dallas knocked off the Giants 27-20. To be completely honest with you, I didn't care not one lick about this game. Most Thanksgiving, damn near all the Thanksgivings that I've lived through, you know the Detroit game is a throwaway, but the Dallas game may be entertaining. This time, Detroit game was not a throwaway, and the Dallas game, perfect time for a nap. These are two sad teams. They both got to figure it out. Dallas beat the Giants 27-20. Now, the night game on Thanksgiving, Green Bay knocked off Miami 30-17. Of course, Miami continued to look better than they've looked without Tua. Tua's back. Tua threw for 365, but Green Bay is pretty damn good. When you look at that NFC North and you look at those records, Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, those are all going to be playoff teams. That is the strongest division in all of football, in my eyes. Closely followed by the AFC North, and that's only because Cincinnati's wagon. But with this one, Green Bay, they did what they had to do, fresh off the heels of beating the hell out of the 49ers. They continue to just chip away. If Detroit happens to slip up, Them or Minnesota could crawl into that number one spot in that division. Now, on the Miami side, they're done. It's a wrap. It's like the 49ers. Next year's coming, and we'll get to their division a little later, but that division's already won, and they are not going to make it into the wild card position. So good night, Dolphins. All right. So then we had our Black Friday game. I know last year they started this Black Friday game thing. It's interesting to me. I really don't think there's a need for a game on Friday as much as I love to watch football. In this game, also, Kansas City versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Kansas City knocked them off 19-17. The Raiders had a pretty good opportunity at the end of the game and squandered it. But it leads into the story with Kansas City all year. Kansas City is a team that I don't think that they're a great team. I don't think that they're as good as they have been. But what I see from Kansas City is they just know how to win games. So if you fuck up, you're through. You're through. But I think that's going to bite Kansas City in the ass as it gets to the playoffs, because there's going to be some of those teams that they're not going to squander those games. Let's move on to Sunday. First game up on Sunday, Chargers knocked off the Atlanta Falcons. This one was a very interesting game. Atlanta, to me, should have done better, but Kirk Cousins couldn't stop turning the ball over. You know, the Chargers won 17-13, but one of their touchdowns was a pick six. So maybe if you don't throw that pick six, you win. Now, Atlanta still is definitely in the conversation to win their division, but if this is how they're going to play going into the playoffs, they're going to lose and lose fast. The Chargers, on the other hand, they continue to show me, if nobody else, that they're a pretty good team. I know what Harbaugh brings as a coach, but they're actually playing a solid brand of football. Not the best, not the worst, but you get them in the playoffs, they're not going to be easy out at all. Next game up on Sunday was the Pittsburgh Steelers knocking off the Cincinnati Bengals 44-38. Holy crap, was this a high-scoring game. To me, and only to me, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the second best team in the AFC. I'm not going to speak for everybody else and what any of the talking heads are saying, but what I see from Pittsburgh is an offense. I have not seen a Pittsburgh offense that I feel like can score throughout the game since maybe 3 or 4 years before Big Ben retired. With Russell Wilson, he's brought a charge to the team. He's moving that ball, and he's put it in the end zone, which is absolutely huge. Cincinnati, on the other hand, see you next year. You're in the same boat as the Niners and a lot of other teams. It's a wrap. We will see you next year. Great offense. Burrow, the whole team, they're good, but the defense is not good. It's not good at all. So Pittsburgh, keep on pushing. Cincinnati, see you next year. Next game up, Arizona Cardinals at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota knocks them off 23-22. Listen, Minnesota is only a 2-loss team. Minnesota is solid. I don't think that they're a great team. I don't think that they're going to go deep into the playoffs, but what they are is a team that nobody wants to play right now. Arizona has been doing pretty solid. They've been learning how to win these games at the end of the game. Minnesota just showed them a different move. So big shout out Vikings. Big shout out Vikings. Arizona, you're still tied for that lead in the NFC West, so you got room. But yeesh, you gotta win some of these games. Then we had the Indianapolis Colts go into New England and win 25-24. This game was really cool from the young guy standpoint. We know Drake May is a rookie. We know AR is in his second year, but AR actually got to lead them to a late game victory, which is good for his psyche, is good for him moving forward. Meanwhile, Drake May has played pretty good as a rookie. Can't really front on that. I actually feel like New England found their quarterback of the future, which is cool for them. But this was a game that really doesn't mean nothing. Neither one of these teams are going to the playoffs. They're looking at draft position. But Indy taking them down 25-24. Then we had the Seattle Seahawks knock off the New York Jets 26-21. Seahawks currently in the lead in the NFC West and have looked like a decent team. Meanwhile, the Jets, it's a wrap. See you next year. Everything that you built for, you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you go trade for Devontae Adams, you fire your coach, you do all of these moves. Guess what? None of it's worked. The Jets are just a terrible team. That's just what it is. You're at home. You got to do better. Seattle, hats off to you. But the Jets, get well soon. See you next year. Then we have the Washington Commanders, or as being proposed, back to the Redskins. Knock off Tennessee 42-19. Now, Washington just came out and dominated. They look like a fantastic team. They look like a team that's on the verge of getting to the playoffs. Tennessee, on the other hand, look like Tennessee. Not a good team at all. They have a lot to build on. Will Levis, Mr. Mayo, I don't know what's happening there, but Tennessee, let's get better. Let's get better. Washington, maybe see in the playoffs. Then we have a big controversial game. Houston knocks off Jacksonville 23-20. Now, that was a pretty close score, but a lot of that happened with Mac Jones at quarterback for Jacksonville because of I'll fuck up his name, but the terrible, terrible hit that he put on Trevor Lawrence. Man, listen, the quarterback's sliding. I've seen a lot of players go in and kind of arms up to go over the quarterback. Shahir did not do that. He tried to take that man out. And what's crazier about it is, from the coach, the GM, and everybody, they're backing him. Just say he fucked up and move along. Just say he fucked up and move along. This is not a good look for Houston at all. For Houston, holding that lead in the AFC South firm, very firm, in the playoffs. Then we had the Rams going to New Orleans and knock off the Saints 21-14. Not too many notes on this one. Neither one of these teams are really good. Rams won. Tampa Bay Bucks going to Carolina, win 26-23 in overtime. Big thing from this game, saw a lot of good play from Bryce Young. He damn near threw for 300 yards. He's progressing. This is what we want to see, the progression out of the young man. Big shout out, Bryce. Let him keep playing. Let him get a little bit better. Next year, Carolina, you don't have to worry about a quarterback. Get some linemen. Get some offensive help. Get some stuff on defense. You may have your quarterback. Then, to me, the game of the day, the one that I want to watch more than anything, Philly walks into Baltimore 24-19. Philly, to me, is the second best team in the NFC. Definitely the second best team. Let me pause for the calls real quick. I'll be right back. All right, y'all, we back. But look, Philly, Baltimore. Whew. This was the game that I really wanted to watch. This was a game that gave me everything that I expected. But Philly also showed they're ready. I think that they're ready for the next step with this game. I really do. Remember, up until this game, Lamar Jackson has had a stellar record against the NFC teams. Just couldn't get it done. This also leads me to question Baltimore a little bit on a couple areas. One, what are we doing with that offense? That offense has looked the same for about 3 years. It really has. Lamar, he can throw the ball. We get that. If Mark Andrews doesn't make a ridiculous catch in the end zone, this game is not close. We also saw Justin Tucker not looking good at all kicking the ball. Man, Justin Tucker has been captain accuracy. To me, he's been the next great kicker behind Adam Vinatieri. He's not looking good. There's been a lot of people thinking that he's going to get cut, he's going to get waived, he's going to get all of that. Man, Justin Tucker, get a little better, bro. To me, it just seems like he has the yips. If anybody knows about golf, the yips, definitely. Do I believe that he'll get better? Sure. The dude's a monster. But these games right here, man, you miss extra point and 2 field goals. That would have drove it to 26-24 Philly. Didn't happen though. But like I said, Philly, they're looking like an all right team. They're looking like an all right team. I'm going to tell you that. So right now, I think that Philly and Detroit are the NFC. I believe that's going to be your NFC championship game. Philly versus Detroit. I'm still going to take Detroit in that game, but Philly, they're making noise. So then we had the last game on Sunday. These guys. San Francisco went into Buffalo and got their ass whooped. They got the doors blown off of them, 35-10. Snow globe game, snow everywhere. Both teams had to play in the snow. So there's no excuse for San Francisco at all. San Francisco, more injuries. McCaffrey goes down. Brock Purdy comes back in. I'm going to tell you, I love Brock Purdy, but it does not look like he's healthy. There were a lot more floaters and a lot less zings. Couple things that I've also seen about that offense, which I got to question Kyle Shanahan. I know who Christian McCaffrey is. I know how good he is. You got other players. You got a Ricky Pearsall, he could play. Debo, he could play. Why is George Kittle not touching the ball enough? I don't know. You get McCaffrey back. That doesn't mean you got to give him the ball all the damn time. Remember, he's a good deception player. He helps out with play action passes. You got other players. Meanwhile, on the Buffalo Bills side, the Bills look like absolute wagon. I always give credit to teams that beat the hell out of the inferior team because that's what you're supposed to do. These games shouldn't be as close if these teams are that far apart. And Buffalo just showed you walk in our house, we're going to beat the shit out of you. We're going to move on to next week. That's what I saw. San Francisco, my squad, love them to death. See you next year. Now it's time to look at what we're going to draft. That being said, San Francisco is still in the running to possibly get the NFC West if a lot of things happen. And I'm just going to tell you, as a fan, they can get the NFC West. I don't expect us to make the Super Bowl. Don't expect us to win the NFC, to go to the NFC Championship. Don't expect us to make any noise. I expect us to be a first game out team if we happen to make it to the playoffs. Just play out the rest of the games, let the chips fall where they may, and let's try and get good draft position. That's how I feel. I am not one of those fans that wants a team to tank for draft position, but call it like we see it. When you're a fan of a team, you want them to have a chance. San Francisco don't have a chance. Buffalo does. So that being said, what I think is going to happen in the AFC Championship, Buffalo and Pittsburgh. NFC Championship, Detroit and Philly. For anybody out there questioning why I would say Buffalo and Pittsburgh and not Kansas City, Kansas City has won a lot of games because the other team doesn't know how to close those games. Buffalo knows how to close. Now you've added an actual good quarterback to Pittsburgh. They'll close. I really believe they'll close. Also, their kicker, he's the leading scorer in the league right now. Kansas City doesn't step up, they'll be on the outside looking in. I got Buffalo and Pittsburgh in the AFC. I got Detroit and Philly in the NFC. Let's see how that shakes. Last game of the week. This one was a doozy. So, I live in Northeast Ohio. I was actually looking forward to this game for multiple reasons. Cleveland and Denver. Denver knocked off Cleveland 41-32, a lot higher scoring than anybody thought. Jameis Winston led the Cleveland Browns with 497 yards passing. Still lost. Still threw 2 pick sixes. Still couldn't get it done. Now, for those that don't know, for those that don't live in the area, for those that don't pay attention, Broncos, Browns, there's a different level of rivalry here. Some of y'all are too young to understand. Some of y'all, no. So the last time the Browns were actually relevant for multiple years, and when I say relevant, it's not just I make the playoffs. It's I'm in the championship game or feel like maybe we could win the Super Bowl. We're talking about late 80s. The drive, the fumble. Both of those Cleveland lost when the expectation were they were going to win and go to the Super Bowl. You know who they lost to? The Denver Broncos. So there's always been a little bit of beat. Now, on the Broncos side, I'm seeing spectacular coaching out of Sean Payton. And I'm seeing what, to me, could be the best offensive rookie of the year in Bo Nix. Now, there's going to be some people that are going to holler at Jaden Daniels. Valid, because he actually might push the Commanders into the playoffs. There's going to be some people that are going to holler Brock Bowers. Also valid. Very valid. Dude is putting up tremendous numbers with a shit team. But what Bo Nix has done to help with this Broncos team is fantastic. And every week, it seems like he's getting a little bit better. So for me, I think he's the offensive rookie of the year. I would not be mad if any of the other 2 gentlemen I named to make it. But I really think it's going to be Bo Nix. And also, Broncos are going to be a tough out. They're going to be a tough out. They are. They have pretty good defense. I know they gave up a ton of points yesterday against the Browns. But with Jameis Winston, that's kind of like understood. He slings the ball. He was a number 1 draft pick. He's a Heisman winner. Homie won a championship in college. Everyone knows that he's very good offensively, but we also know that he'll turn the ball over. So that's not a slight on the offensive non-turn the ball over type. He's a top tier quarterback, but you just know he's going to turn the ball over. That I'm not going to take anything away from Denver with that, but I'll just point out Denver's good. They're actually pretty good. They're going to be tough in the playoffs. They are. We'll see what happens when we get there, of course. Now, that is a wrap on this week in NFL. We'll come back and we'll talk more in depth about this weekend's upcoming games. College football, NFL, we're going to preview. We're going to pick them all. I'd love to see it. This is when everything really revs up. This is when these games mean a lot more. This is when the weather really plays into these games. You know, at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of warm weather games. Ain't no warm weather games now, especially if you're coming to the north. If you're not indoors, yeah, this is cold. I love to see it. I love to see how it shakes out. If you can make it through these weeks, you might have a chance. You absolutely might have a chance. I know upcoming for the Steelers, this is going to be real cool to watch, but they have the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Chiefs back to back to back. If they come out of those 2-1, they're going to be the best team in the AFC. They just are. If they come out of it 3-0, I'm going to give them number one team in the league. So let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens, y'all. So I am out until next time. Be good or be good at it, y'all, and I will holler.